I tell people within fitness, I said, it's not your fault, really. I mean, it's complicated. The whole world has changed so dramatically beyond comprehension that if you want to survive, man, you got to be so self-aware. You have to be on the ball and awake. Otherwise, man, you're not going to make it. It's not set up for you to win at all on any level. It's way too confusing.
What does discipline? What does discipline mean to you?
It's actually I looked discipline up just to see what the Webster's dictionary version of it, and discipline actually there's kind of a negative part to it because it's almost like military kind of discipline, right? Where you're being punished, you're being disciplined. You discipline your dog for peeing on the rug, right? But for me, discipline is the ability to return back to my center, right? Return back to my core. So people say you need to be disciplined, have a disciplined lifestyle. Okay, well that's just really ambiguous. There's so many moving parts. But for me, the discipline, again, I mean, I'll just come back to the why piece, right? The discipline is returning back to center, is to having one point on the grid, one focal point saying, this is what I'm coming back to. And what's interesting, and I won't go on to too much of a tangent here, but I think it's really important for people to understand. If you look at, I tell people within fitness, I said, it's not your fault, really. I mean, it's complicated. The whole world has changed so dramatically beyond comprehension that if you want to survive, man, you got to be so self-aware. You have to be on the ball and awake. Otherwise, man, you're not going to make it. It's not set up for you to win at all on any level. It's way too confusing. So if you go back even just 100 years ago, we had two things going on. One, we have a negative bias. We have this negative thing in our brain that makes us look out for danger, right? So it's called a negative bias, and it's kind of built into your circuitry, right? It's not bad. It's just there. It's there to remind you of dangers or challenging things. But what we had for thousands of years, which we don't really have anymore, was the positive influence, which was culture, which was spiritual practices, which maybe called religion or whatever. But we had a community and a culture. So you talked about being with your grandmother, going to the bush, she'd get some leaves. Well, in an environment where there was a negative bias in that environment, because the negative says, if I go by that tree at this time of year, something's gonna drop out of that tree and kill me. So I need to know the smells and the sounds and the environment to make me aware and keep me safe. But if that was all you lived by, you'd be a nervous wreck because you'd be terrified to go anywhere. But what you had on the other side of that was you had these practices every single day. It was a practice that you had with your family. It was a practice around meal time. It was a practice around dinner time. It was a practice with your neighbors. It was a practice with your community. And when we talk about discipline, the reason why it's so much harder now is that we don't have that positive reinforcement of a culture that existed for thousands of years that we don't have anymore. It's been so diluted, especially in North American culture and most developed countries like the UK. It's so watered down that it's challenging. And we think it's our fault. We think I just don't have discipline. No, it's not that simple. It's just we don't have a culture that supports it anymore. It's way too abstract. So the discipline is that realizing that the environment is not set up for me to win, though I can. It's way too confusing. There's way too many things going on. I just need to bring my vision back to a point on the horizon and be disciplined enough. Well, go back to the why, to remember why I'm here, remember why I'm doing it, and be disciplined to that one thing. And when you align to that one thing, you'll offset all the negativity that's coming at you 24/7.
You remind me of some kind of kung fu master, bro, because it's like, I love manga. I watch a lot of manga, and there's this there's this story in a few of them where like this guy, he just practices one punch he does like 100,000 of them, and he's able to master because he's just focused on one punch. This one guy, he runs a 10K, does 1,000 push-ups and 1,000 sit-ups every day, and he's able to master because of it. Just focus on one thing. It sounds like one of those kung fu films. Just focus on one thing. It is so simple. It is so beautiful. But it's kind of hard to do because there's so much going on in our modern day life.
Well, the best athletes in the world. I mean, if you look at Serena Williams, what does she do? She gets paid like $10 million or $20 million a year to do what? Forehand, backhand, and serve. Forehand, backhand, and serve. And how many times has she done that? Hundreds of thousands of times. Is she bored? No. She looks amazing. She makes lots of money. She's the best at what every person in their particular field of interest mastered some basic things which made them a success. Why can't we take the lesson from that? Right? Why not? Right? Bruce Lee said, "I'd be more afraid of a man, that has practiced one punch 1,000 times, right,
Yeah.
than somebody who's practiced an entire art form." We looked at, there was a comment around boxing, around martial arts. If I took somebody and I trained somebody in martial arts for 1 year and boxing for 1 year, who would win? So they said probably the boxer. Why? Because he has less things to sort out.
Yeah.
He's only got a few punches to deal with. And I think the discipline is in the simplicity, as you said, the simplicity of the exercise. Keep it simple, because as soon as you make it complex, as soon as you try to learn 15 things, you're done.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching this video. If you've got any questions that you'd like our experts to answer, please leave them in the comments below.